So everyone, in this video, we're going to guide you through the key muscles affecting the ankle joint. We're going to show you all the key muscles as well as guiding you through key conditions in which they matter. So if you're ready to learn anatomy, let's dive in. Hey everyone, Khalid here. Welcome back to Clinical Physio. And in today's session, we're going to look at the key muscles affecting the ankle joint. So we're going to separate this tutorial into three different parts. We're going to look at the key dorsiflexors of the ankle, the everters, and we're going to look at the plantar flexors. Now, you'll notice that there is no specific inverter group, and that is because the muscles that create inversion of the ankle are actually made up of the dorsiflexors and plantar flexors combined. So we're going to analyze that later. But for now, let's start with the dorsiflexor group. So there are three key muscles in this group. We have tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Now, there are a couple of simple ways to remember these. Number one, it's often said that anatomy makes sense, and the logic behind the anatomy is implicated and indicated here with this group. So we can see that the dorsiflexors are located on the anterior aspect of the leg. And therefore, if we think about the movement of dorsiflexion, where we're lifting the ankle and foot up, is going to require these muscles on the front of the leg to do that movement, and therefore you can attach the location of the anterior muscles to the movement of dorsiflexion. But secondly, if we think about the movement of dorsiflexion, it is also referred to as extension of the ankle joint, and therefore it makes sense that some of the muscles like extensor digitorum longus and extensor hallucis longus are the muscles involved in dorsiflexion because they create extension of the ankle joint. Now, a key clinical condition that we need to think about here is a foot drop. So, as we said, the muscles involved in dorsiflexion are the ones we've just seen. And the key nerve that innervates all of these muscles is the one that we can see in yellow running through here, which is the deep perineal nerve, also known as the deep fibular nerve. So, we know, therefore, that if our patient has a foot drop and these muscles are unable to produce the movement of dorsiflexion, it's likely that the deep perineal nerve is affected. The two ways that this commonly happens is either through a spinal condition, that means that there is a lack of innervation to the deep perineal nerve, or you can have a local or peripheral nerve palsy around the fibular head, which is where the deep perineal nerve effectively starts, and therefore if you have something like a fibular fracture, it can sometimes lead to a foot drop. That means that the deep fibular nerve can't innervate these muscles. Of course, the other reason is if someone has a central issue with the brain, perhaps like a stroke, which therefore affects the deep perineal nerve, but you will see other nerves affected because the whole limb is likely to be weak. So if your patient has an isolated foot drop, most common causes are either spinal or a peripheral nerve palsy of the deep perineal nerve. So the next group of muscles that we're going to look at is the plantar flexors of the ankle, which comprise of tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, and the triceps suri muscles, which are gastrocnemius, soleus, and sitting underneath the gastrocnemius is plantaris. So the first clear feature that you'll notice with all of these is that they are located at the posterior aspect of the lower leg. Now, we mentioned in the previous section that all the anterior muscles extend the foot and ankle as a part of dorsiflexion. Well, it makes sense that all these muscles are involved in plantar flexion. If you think about extension being the movement associated of the ankle with dorsiflexion, flexion is the movement associated with the ankle of plantar flexion. And therefore, when we think about the terms flexor hallucis longus and flexor digitorum longus, it's no surprise that these muscles are involved in plantar flexion of the foot and ankle. But of course, as we said, in order to produce that plantar flexion downward movement, it requires contraction of the posterior muscles in order to create that movement. So now let's look at a couple of clinical conditions relevant to these different muscles. First of all, if we look at the three muscles that you can see on the screen here which run medial to the ankle, we have tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus. All three of these muscles run through the tarsal tunnel region of the ankle, which is on the medial side of the ankle. The tarsal tunnel runs between the medial malleolus of the tibia, which we can see here, and the medial calcaneus. So all three of those muscles run in the tarsal tunnel. But otherwise, if we look at the triceps suri group, where we have gastrocnemius, soleus, and underneath it plantaris, we can see that all of these particular muscles insert into the Achilles tendon, one of the most important structures in the whole leg, because without the Achilles tendon, we wouldn't be able to create the movements of plantar flexion because of the gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris focus on that tendon, because those muscles insert into there. There is controversy in the literature as to whether plantaris definitely does or definitely doesn't insert into the Achilles tendon, but we can be 100% sure that the gastrocnemius and the soleus muscles do indeed insert into the Achilles tendon. So when we think about the Achilles tendon, of course there are a couple of key conditions that come into mind, including an Achilles tendinopathy or an Achilles tendon rupture. So with your Achilles tendinopathy, you'll commonly find that patients report pain around the midsection, or what is called the midsection of the tendon, or at the insertion of the Achilles tendon, right where it inserts into the calcaneus at its most distal point. So you might look out for patients who have pain. Commonly they come in with a story of progressive overload of the plantar flexors. For example, someone who has suddenly increased the amount of running that they're doing recently because they're training for a marathon or a half marathon. However, the other really important condition to consider is an Achilles tendon rupture. So with an Achilles tendon rupture, you will perform a test like the Thompson test or the squeeze test, and if you find that the patient has no movement at all, it may well be that they've ruptured their Achilles tendon. This is really important to detect because it needs urgent management, immediate emergency management, where the foot gets placed into a cast or a plaster of Paris in order to help the tendon to heal and reattach to its points or to join together. Because if we leave these Achilles tendon ruptures, then often the patient loses strength and has effectively non-healing of the tendon, which therefore may require surgery. So really important that we spot our Achilles tendon rupture patients. So for anyone who has a lack of plantar flexion, specifically after a major trauma, you might think about an Achilles tendon rupture. So now that we've looked at the dorsiflexors and the plantar flexors, we can show you the key muscles involved in inversion of the ankle. Now the muscles that are involved in this movement are the tibialis anterior muscle, which runs down the anterior portion of the lower leg. And then we have the three muscles which run posteriorly that we talked about earlier, that run underneath the medial malleolus of the tibia, which are tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus. So let's work out how we know that these muscles are inverters. Well, the first thing to say is that they all have a connection to the medial side of the ankle. And you can imagine that in order to produce the movement of inversion, it's going to require the structures on the medial side of the ankle to contract. So for example, if we take tibialis anterior, we can see where it inserts into the base of the medial cuneiform, as well as the base of the first metatarsal. So it inserts into those medial points, meaning that when it contracts, it's going to pull the foot inwards. And then if we look at the three muscles we mentioned secondly of tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, that run underneath the medial side of the ankle here, we can see that they run underneath the medial malleolus and then to various points on the foot. But it means that because of that lever point around the medial malleolus, once again, when these muscles contract, That medial malleolus provides that lever that means the foot is going to drift inwards into an inversion position. So it's clues like this that show us how these particular muscles are involved in inversion of the foot. So once again, we're talking about the key muscles involved in inversion. We're talking about tibialis anterior, as well as the three muscles that we mentioned just now: tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus. So next, let's look at our final group, the everter muscles of the foot and ankle. And we have three of these, which are fibularis longus, fibularis brevis, and finally fibularis tertius. Now, all the three muscles here are involved in eversion of the foot and ankle. And as well as seeing them as the fibularis muscles, you may also see them referred to as the perineal muscles, where we have peroneus longus, peroneus brevis, and peroneus tertius. So you'll see those two anatomical terms used interchangeably. I tend to find that in the more recent resources that you can find on anatomy, the term fibularis tends to be used more than peroneus, which tends to be in older anatomical resources. So there's a couple of really important things to highlight about these muscles related to their positioning. Notice how fibularis longus and fibularis brevis run posterior to the fibular bone before looping underneath the lateral malleolus and inserting into the foot, whereas fibularis tertius actually runs anterior to the fibular bone before inserting into the foot at the fifth metatarsal. So why does this matter? Well, there's two key reasons. The first is in relation to their actions. As well as all being everters, these muscles also have secondary roles. Because we can see how fibularis longus and brevis are posterior to the fibula, it tells us that the secondary role of these muscles is related to the posterior movement of plantar flexion. Whereas fibularis tertius runs anterior to the fibula, and therefore, as well as its role as an everter, its other role is related to the other anterior muscles because it also assists in dorsiflexion. So it's really important to know the position of these muscles relative to the fibula so you can remember those secondary roles. So the other really important point to be aware of related to the location of these muscles is their nerve supply. That is because the fibularis longus and brevis muscles have a different nerve supply to the fibularis tertius, which we can remember related to their location. So for fibularis longus, the nerve supply comes from the superficial fibular nerve. And for fibularis brevis, the innervation also comes from the superficial fibular nerve. However, with fibularis tertius, the nerve supply comes from the deep fibular nerve. Remember, anterior being the fibularis tertius, therefore, like the other dorsiflexors on the anterior surface of the ankle, extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus, and tibialis anterior, these muscles also have the deep fibular nerve as their nerve supply. Therefore, once again, the two muscles located slightly posteriorly have a different nerve supply to the one located anteriorly. The phrase I use to remember this is ADLs, your activities of daily living, but you can also remember it as anterior deep, lateral superficial. That helps remember for me that the two lateral muscles of fibularis longus and brevis are supplied by the superficial fibular nerve, whereas the anterior muscle, fibularis tertius, is supplied by the deep fibular nerve. Anterior, deep, lateral, superficial. So everyone, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please support us by smashing that like button and subscribe to the channel for all our best YouTube videos. Remember, we have loads more resources for physiotherapists on our Instagram account at Clinical Physio. Please do make sure to give us a follow there as well. And if you want even more on anatomy learning, please do check out our membership channel. Link in the description below, member.clinicalphysio.com. As a part of premium and annual membership, you will get access to all our anatomy teaching of the ankle anatomy bootcamp, the knee anatomy bootcamp, the shoulder anatomy bootcamp, the hip anatomy bootcamp, the list goes on, whereby we teach you all the key anatomy for all the key joints around the body. You can watch those all on membership, member.clinicalphysio.com. So my name's Khalid. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon here on Clinical Physio.